Skye Squad, we are in the building with memberships. Oh yes, it's your boy DJ Richie Skye, and we are getting these memberships popping. Now, what does that mean for new members to the channel, okay? Well, first things first, I want to say this. It ain't nothing gonna change here if this ain't in your budget, because guess what? I know sometimes we need to ball on a budget. But for those of you who can and want to throw a little extra at the channel for some support, we're gonna also give you some extra reviews and content that I wouldn't normally put on the channel or on my backup channel. So like movie reviews, other television shows that we may not necessarily normally cover, and at a different level, we can also do members only chats. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I might be in the bathtub and want to have a little chatterization with you. You know what I mean? Sometimes we might want to just touch on a subject that we wouldn't normally talk about. Sometimes I might want to put an extra long podcast with a very special guest on here. Who knows? It's about to be on and popping with these memberships. So listen, go on ahead, get your membership going, and if you can't, guess what? I understand and respect that too, because guess what, baby? I understand your budget, and we're gonna, support those people who might not want to do it right now, but if you choose to do it in the future, guess what? Your boy thanks you, okay? And this goes to support the continued growth of this channel. All right, so get your memberships on. I appreciate y'all so much, and I love y'all. Y'all know how we always do it on this channel. We're gonna keep doing the doggone thing. Skye Squad, I'm gonna catch you in the next video. What up, Skye Squad? We are back in the building for the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, episode 5,594. Oh yes, we are in part 3 of the reunion. We are at the finish line, baby, and I cannot be happier, okay? I am so over this season, but we got to talk about a lot of things that happened this episode. So get ready, okay? Buckle up, okay? Buckle all the way up. Shout out to the new members. I appreciate you. Let us know in the chatterization where you guys are watching from, because we're a little bit nosy. We want to know where our people are watching from, okay? We got New Jersey in the building, Houston. We got Pace, Florida. We got Cali. I see you. Vegas, baby. I see you. California. Hey. We got DC in the building. DC, ATL up in this thing. We got St. Vincent. Okay, come on now. NOLA, Durham, St. Vic's. It's a lot of St. Vincent up in here. St. Thomas, Durham. Who else is up in here? Hey, smash that like button. Oakland, Sydney, Australia, baby. We worldwide, baby. Connecticut, Nairobi, Kenya. Come on now. Is that the UK up in here? Is that it? Is that what I see? Is that the flag? I can't tell. Can't tell, baby. The Shah is in the building, baby. Memphis, Tennessee, Lexington. Hey, baby. Listen, as you guys may notice, Adam from Up and Adam is not here. He has some things to do and some things to accomplish. But never fear, baby, because we're going to bring you the review like you need it to be brought, okay? Now, I want you to go ahead and rate this review down in the chatterization. What you going to give part 3 of the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City reunion? On a scale of 1 to 10, go ahead and give it a rating. I'm going to rate it I'm going to give it an 8. That's the number that popped up into my brain. We got Andy grilling Jen, Shah, and Sharif about the arrest and whether or not he had the internal bleeding. And I got to let y'all know, we got to go through these responses with a fine-tooth comb, okay? With a fine-tooth comb, all right? Do I got a fine-tooth comb? I ain't got a fine-tooth comb, but we're going to go through it with this pick, okay? You hear me what I'm saying? We're going through it with this pick, all right? Asking the questions that needed to be asked, all right? Now, and I want to know what y'all think about what he said about this internal bleeding situation, because I don't know. I was looking kind of like, what do I believe, Mr. Sharif? What do I believe? All right. Then, hey, another new member in the building. I see you. I thank you so much. And we got Jen Shah revealing the tea about Whitney's husband, okay, and the allegations against him and his former company. I say former because the man has been let go. Oh, yes. Oh yes, he got the buck. He got the get on up out of here. You cannot work for this company no more. But we're gonna get into that in just 1 second. Okay, let's start things off here. All right. So on the break, we pick back up. Lisa is trying to saddle up to Miss Meredith Marks. Side note, did y'all see this? Let me just pull this up. Not that. We already went through that. Did y'all see this? I gotta get it over to my TV Deets, my friend over at TV Deets. Okay. Now, this came from the TMZ, I believe it was. They was talking to, Lisa Barlow. You know how they always get the people when they look like they at the airport or whatever. And I was like, the reporter asked, well, what do you think about Jenny? Do you think that it was too harsh to fire her for her racist post or whatever like that? Do you think she deserves a second chance? And Lisa says, well, everybody deserves a second chance. For us to, we have to mess up in order and sometimes learn the lesson in order to do better. Let me tell you where she don't deserve a second chance is on this show. She can be all the types of races she want to be over there in Utah, in her local community center, or wherever her neighborhood shops that she may dwell, okay? But not on the TV screen where the rest of us need to be watching and be traumatized by the things that she's saying. So no, Lisa, and I know that girl is your friend or whatever the case may be, but she got some problematic behaviors. And now I'm looking at you sideways for saying that she deserves a second chance on this show. Listen, okay? Now, I'm not saying that, again, I want anything bad to happen to this lady, because I don't, okay? I want her to live and learn and do better. But ain't no second chances on this show, so I don't want to hear that thing no more, okay? And that's that on that. Period. All right? Now, anyway, Lisa, I just make all the wrong moves sometime to me. Just making all the wrong moves. As they going on the break, Lisa saddles on up to Meredith. Well, girl, listen, I just want to tell you how sorry I am. And, it was really because I had heard that you had said some stuff, about my renovations to my house. And so that's really where all this was coming from. And Meredith is like, if you don't get up out of my face right now with this mess, okay, get out of my face with this. So you gonna call me the hoe, okay? And you gonna say that I done banged half of New York City because somebody said that your renovations was ugly? Get out of here, ma'am, okay? Anyway, the guys are somewhere, the guys that made it there are off to the side somewhere toasting, to the reunion. Hey guys, we're gonna be on TV again. Okay. And if I was Sharif, I definitely wouldn't have been toasting to that, because you're gonna be in the hot seat today. All right. Now, everybody but Seth is there. Now, Lisa has said that Seth can't keep a job or nothing like that. That's why they can't have no house. That's what Lisa said, not me. And so anyway, Seth said, you know what? You think I don't work, so I'm not even gonna show up to the reunion because I'm working. Okay. And he is working part-time, well, not part-time. He is living part-time in Mississippi while he is doing some work. And Meredith is back in the Utah because, as we know, his job keeps him on the go, okay? That might just be good for somebody's marriage, okay? It might be. You never know. But what I do know is he tells her this. He tells Meredith while she's on the phone with him. He said, Meredith, listen. He says, if you give someone a second chance, you are giving them a bullet because they missed you the first time. I said, well, that's a word right there. That's a word. That's why I'm not going back to Bojangles either. Let me tell you why. I stopped at Bojangles this past weekend on my way home to visit my parents. And do you know that meal was nasty? It was nasty. That chicken was nasty dry. Nasty dry. And we was on our way back up the highway again. And they said, let's stop by Bojangles again. I said, you gonna give them a second time to mess up their order? I'm not. Bojangles, I am done with you, okay? That's how I feel about it. Anyway, so apparently, um, we learn on the streets that Justin, who is Whitney's husband, was fired from the job. Okay. Now, how do we know he was fired from the job? Well, let me tell you. He posted on the Facebook, and I got this from Reality Blurb. So I'll place the link in the description down for you down below. Okay. Basically, it's a farewell, sayonara, see you later. I got the axe letter, okay, to the Life Vantage peoples or whatever. All right. And he gives the saying, when one door closes, another one opens. And yes, it does. So you'll find something else or whatever. Um, he goes through this whole thing, but let me tell you why he was let go. He was let go because of the little paint session that him and Whitney had in the bedroom, where she had done, was running around in the teddy, and they was rolling around on the floor in the paint. So now he has been let go from the job at the Life Vantage, from what we see on that screen right there. Now, the Life Vantage, okay? The people are alleging that that's like a pyramid scheme. And again, let me put this up here on the thing. Let me put it up here. And Jen Shah had then she mentioned it at the reunion, but I'm gonna get to that in a minute. Anyway, they was asking how much of their savings Whitney had gone through for the rebrand, and she said a lot of that money was spent buying her business partner out or whatever. To me, let me say this, and maybe they had some type of contract where she couldn't do this, so I don't know. I was about to say maybe she could have just quit that business and then started a new business on her own, but she might have had a contract with a business partner, and it might have just been easier to buy the person out. So I guess that was what the case was. And apparently she used up the liquid savings that they was using to save for a cabin, but she's up 540% in her business sales. So maybe she has put that money back in the savings account. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so that's fine. We're asked how Seth feels about Lisa going off on him in her hot mic moment. And Seth really kind of doesn't address Lisa. I think he was just trying to play the good guy route because he is still friends with Lisa's husband, John. So what he says is, well, I commend Meredith for, the way she's handled everything. And Andy's like, you did not answer the question, how you feel about what this woman said about you and your family. And he jokes and says, well, I guess Meredith didn't tell you that I had relations with the other half of New York City, kind of making a joke about it. But then he says he's hopeful that everybody can heal from it. And I'm like, brother, man, no, not today. And I'm sorry, Mr. John Barlow, and I'm sorry to you too, Lisa Barlow. But if I was Seth, I would be like, you don't know anything about me or my family or how we live and how we making our money. And I would suggest you refrain from talking about who and how we slept with and whomever we slept with before we see you in court, because my wife used to be a lawyer. Okay, that's what I would say to her. Call those 6 lawyers and ask them for how they was gonna handle me suing you if I so choose to, because you are making up stuff about my wife. How about that? Anyway, Andy asked racist Jenny and her husband some stuff, and I have to be honest with you guys. I literally fast forwarded throughout that whole situation. I did. I was just like, you know what? I can't listen to y'all. So anyway, Sharif, we end up talking about Sharif, and he's like, black men need therapy. Racist Jenny's husband is like, Asian men need therapy too. All men need therapy. Let's just say it like that. All right. Anyway. So then Andy asked Sharif, Jen Shah's husband, to walk him through how he found out about Jen getting arrested. Now, I'm gonna be reading some things verbatim here, so just walk with me here. But it's important. The devil is in the details in this conversation, okay? So walk with me. Now, Sharif says he was with an assistant, and he had some personal health issues that he was dealing with, and he was being examined. One of his assistants had his phone, who called Jen, and within 25 minutes of hanging up, he received a call from Homeland Security. Okay. Jen says that was a real call that she got about him having the internal bleeding. But when we get the flashback of Jen in the call, she says she needs to go to the house and not to the hospital. And then tells Heather she needs to go to University Hospital. Andy point blank asked Sharif, did you or did you not have the internal bleeding? Sharif says this, I'll tell you this much. I've had a history of, and what I thought he said, and you guys can tell me in the chat if I'm wrong, I thought he said that he had a history of rectal bleeding. Did y'all hear the same thing? Comment in the chat and let me know, am I right or wrong? Okay. Did I hear him right when he said, okay, y'all saying that that's what he said. Okay, so if he said, now my ears did not deceive me. He said he had a history of the rectal bleeding and was bleeding so much that the doctor thought it was important. The internal bleeding was more gastrointestinal bleeding. And the entire time he's talking, okay, I'm watching Heather Gay's face, okay? Because Heather Gay is looking like, now let me tell you like this. Coach Shah, I like you. I do. I like you. I like you. I do. I like how you are supporting and standing by your woman. I do. But let me tell you something. Lord help you if what you said about all of these bleedings and things was not true. Because it didn't sit right in my spirit when I heard it. But I ain't got no way to refute it. So I'm going to have to roll with it. But the way everybody on that stage was looking as the camera panned to each one of those peoples and they got their reaction shot, it didn't look like nobody else's face was believing it quite as much either, to be very honest. And again, Mr. Sharif, I like you, but it didn't come across as believable to me. Hey, Kim and Nicole, I appreciate you. All right. It sounded rehearsed. It did. And that's all I can say. It felt to me, it was like it's too many holes in this story for it to be the truth. But we also know he too was a lawyer. Okay. He too was a lawyer. So because, again, just because to me it don't sound right, don't mean that it ain't right. So I'm just gonna let it rock. If that's what the man say, that's what it is. Okay. Now, Andy also says, when you got a call from Homeland Security, did you call her after you got a call from Homeland Security? And Sharif is like, no, I did not. Then Andy asked how it felt seeing the other women's reaction to Jen's arrest. And Sharif says it was painful. And Jen didn't expect the extent to what they had been saying about her. Andy then asked, have you two had any infidelity in your marriage, Jen and Mr. Sharif? And Jen says no. Okay. So then Andy says, we spent a lot of time asking Erica, Jane, during the Beverly Hills reunion, a lot of these similar questions. that we now have to ask you, Mr. Sharif. Okay? Did you ever question where the money came from? Sharif says this: my wife has worked for 20-something years. It's been amassed over time. I just want you all to raise your hand in the chat if you too have been working for 20 years, but you are not spending $80,000 on a party for Meredith Marks, okay? Or for any of your friends that you barely know, for that matter. See, to me, we also get a flashback, okay, of Jen Shah telling the camera that she spends $50,000 per month. I know if Bay's spending $50,000 per month, I can see it come through the door. I know. I would know. If I know if I know Bay spending $50,000 per month, I'm definitely asking some questions. Bay, what are you doing on the side? Where is all this money coming from? How can you afford an $80,000 party? You ain't took me on an $80,000 vacation. Or maybe she was taking him on $80,000 vacations. I don't know. But what I'm saying is, I personally feel like I've been working for years and years and years, and I ain't spending that much money on who's and whatnots. Okay. So I don't know. The answers that he was giving me just wasn't satisfactory to me. Okay. But what he did give was emotion. And I feel like Mr. Sharif appealed to our emotions versus our logic. Okay. Lisa says, Sky Squad, hey DJ Richie, I'm so glad I caught you live. Been waiting for your live all day. Alexandria, LA, in the building. Thank you, boo. Okay. Now. Okay. Andy says, well, were you concerned that you might be implicated in all this? Sharif says, no, I've worked for my whole life. Like the rest of us ain't been working. Okay. But my thought is this: if these allegations are true, which to be honest, I hope that they are not, because selfishly, I want her to be on the next season and the next season and the next season because she's a good housewife. Okay, she's good entertainment. But I would be concerned that if she had made money from these flim-flams, allegedly, and that money was spent on the family, I mean, is he in any way liable or to be held accountable as well? Okay. Send it my way. Right? Right? Send it my way. Then it's asked, did you ever doubt Jen in all of this? Sharif says, no, he didn't. Okay? No, he did not. And see, I'm going to tell you like this, Mr. Sharif is a ride or die. I'm not mad at it because the folks say when you get married, to death do you part. So you're supposed to ride for your husband, your wife until the very end. Okay? Until the bitter end. Andy asked him next, well, did you understand what she did? Okay? Hey, Eminem, thank you. Do you understand what she did? Sharif says, well, she's into beauty and fashion. And, you know, I can't really elaborate on everything because it deals with her case. But yes, I did understand. Okay. So then Jen has an issue with what Whitney said she did in the van on the way to the Aspen or the Vale or wherever it was going. And she says it's because they never had any, Jen and Whitney never had any discussions about what she did for a living. I mean, not that anybody needs to have any discussions when it's on podcasts and interviews and things like that, where you kind of discuss what you did. But Whitney says that she got the information from somebody else that used to work in that same business with Jen. And then Jen is like, well, Justin has a whole, being Whitney's husband, has a whole FTC thing against him, but you don't see me mentioning that. And I'm like, well, girl, you just did. Okay. But let's talk about it now that it's out there. All right. And Jen is like, well, how would you feel if I brought up his FTC stuff with his business? All right. And then Andy briefly asked about the case, and Justin said, well, it's been an ongoing thing for years, and it just exists out there. And that was all the discussion we got about it. Now I'll place the link down in the article for you down below so you can find out more information about what that case is, actually. And you can check that out at your leisure after I finish this video. All right. Anyway, Jen also takes the issue with the fact that the brown girl can't understand how the brown girl could possibly have all this money, how the couple of color can have all this money. And what she's saying is partially true, but I don't like that train of thought to a certain degree, because it negates the fact that we just don't understand what you do. Okay. You have never been able to accurately articulate what you do, and the details of it are fuzzy. Okay. They asked what the guys think of Lisa not showing up for Jen, and Sharif was disappointed, but he cried when Heather showed up for her, because, you know, Heather is down for Jen until the very end, whether Jen did these things or not. Okay. Heather don't care. Heather's going to be ride or die until the end. She is going to jump off of that cliff with Jen like Thelma and Louise. Okay. Like Thelma and Louise. Dr. Tiff says the defense is going to have a field day with all of this. The latter trial date will allow all of this to be used as evidence and exhibits. I know, Dr. Tiff, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy. It is going to be crazy. During the break, see, Lisa. The problem with Lisa Barlow is that, at least on the surface, her actions seem a bit transparent to me. And as much as I have liked Lisa in the past, and I think she's good for the show, I think sometimes her actions seem like more transactional than authentic. For instance, during the break, Lisa runs over to Whitney and Heather to hug them. Okay. And Heather says she's thankful to Lisa for getting her on this show. And Meredith is like, girl, not so fast. I too helped get you on this show. Remember that. Okay. It felt to me like Lisa knew she was backed into a corner, and she knew that Jen was no longer her ally, and she needed some allies on that couch, on the show in that moment. And she knew that it wasn't going to be Meredith, and that nobody really cared what racist Jenny thought because she was too new. That's what that moment felt like to me when Lisa ran over to hug them. Now, I'm sure also there's a part of her that wanted to have a relief from them coming at her, because they was tag teaming her down. Okay. So I felt like that was more of a power move to recalibrate the board and have some level of support. But that's just me. Okay. Anyway, we get to the day that the beauty lab was raided. Okay. Jen says they stopped her on the way to the hospital. They took her to the courthouse, read her the charges, arrested her, and she can't remember everything that happened that day. All right. Liz says, did you see on TMZ that Lisa said Jenny may deserve a second chance? Yes, we talked about that right at the beginning. It's, I mean, listen, in life, everybody deserves second chances, but not on this show, okay? She don't deserve a second chance on this show to torment us again. I don't think so, okay? So anyway, Jen is asked, why did she want the footage of her ring to be shown? Now, for those of you who are confused, the ring is basically the ring on the doorbell, and it showed during the episodes, it showed the cops and whoever else, pointing guns at her kids and her family, which was disturbing, to be honest with you. And she felt like it was important for people to see, and I do feel her on that. Andy says, and we don't know if Stewart's kids were put through the same thing. That to me is the part that I'm really interested in knowing. When they came, when the people came down on Stewart, did they do the same thing to him? Did they go to his house and point the guns and things like that at everybody? That's what I want to know. I mean, because I feel like that's a valid piece of information right there. But I could go on about that, but we're not gonna go on about it. All right. Because Jen don't know because she ain't talked to Stewart. Anyway, Andy says, you told Heather this. Okay, here we get to the stuff with Stewart and Jen, because this was the stuff that was confusing. Andy says, Jen, you told Heather that you and Stewart didn't work together. Jen says, no. But then we get a flashback of Stewart and Jen, and they're filmed working together. So, Jen, you're going to have to, we need to, come on now. The footage shows something clear as day that looked as though you guys worked together in some capacity. There have been too many scenes that you have alluded to looking out for Stewart and his family. It's just too much information that's out there that we can literally go back to last season and earlier this season to see that does not make any sense to me. I'm not calling her a liar. I'm saying it's confusing. Okay? Now, Jen says that she brought him into businesses and she brought him into things with her, but I'm like, isn't that the same thing? Anyway, Andy says Stewart has changed his plea to guilty. What was your reaction to that? Jen says, I wish I could respond, but I can't. So it was asked if anybody else has spoken to Stewart. Heather says, I reached out to Stewart that day to see if everything was okay, because she was thinking he might have known something. Lisa says she has not spoken to Stewart, but she did reach out. Jen says this in a very quick moment that was not addressed. Jen says, I'm sure you did, just like you tried to contact my former assistant or something like that, right? So then Andy says, how did it feel to watch the women talk about how you pay for your lavish lifestyle? Jen says, I knew that the people were full of it because Lisa told me. And Lisa's like, well, everybody said it. And Jen is like, well, again, it's like, why can't the brown girl have any money? Why is it the brown girl? And Whitney is like, and listen, again, normally I would have been here for that logic, but no, it's not logic. That's an emotional trigger. Normally I would have been here for that. Last night I was not, because the fact of the matter is, this was one of the times where I have to commend Whitney for explicitly stating what I think most people were feeling. Most of us don't have friends who spend money like that and cannot accurately articulate what it is that they do. So it does not match. Bottom line. Let me tell y'all a little story. I ain't gonna give no names. I do question people when I see people walking around with wads and wads of money rolled up in, and I'm not talking about Jen Shah. I'm just talking about in life in general. I do question where are you? Why do you have all of these dollar bills? Why? Why do you have rolls and stacks and stacks and stacks of money if A, I know that you are not um you don't own no vending machines, you don't own a laundromat, you are not a server, you are not a bartender. I'm asking questions. Why do you have so many wads of cash on you? And I cannot accurately understand where it's coming from. These are questions that I feel like anybody want to know. Is it my business necessarily? Not really. But if you're my friend and you're going to be around me, I definitely want to know what the people who are around me are doing to earn their money. Okay. Because for me, I need to know, do I need to be on the lookout for something? I mean, what's T? What's really going on? And I'm being 100% for real. I don't want, because listen, if you keep that over there, okay? Do what you need to do over there, all right? Don't bring it here. Anyway, Andy says, well, Whitney, you were speculating a whole lot. How do you know so much about fraud and money laundering? And Whitney says, well, I know someone who used to work with Jen. And Andy says, well, how is that different from what Jen is being accused of? And, Whitney tries to give some kind of explanation. Andy says, is that accurate? Jen says it's not accurate. She says, what I do is data monetization. It's generating money from data, like a name and a phone number. I could spend a lot of time breaking this down for y'all because, quite frankly, I don't understand it. And I think that what she is saying is just a bit confusing to me. It's confusing. What Whitney stated actually sounded more plausible because I understood what Whitney stated when she stated it when she was in the back of the van. But this data monetization and generating money from data and it's just basically from a name and a number. What are you doing with the name and the number? Are you selling it? I need to know the process. Hand me a standard operating procedure. Okay. Hand me a standard operating procedure. If it could be, because listen, most businesses, I'm gonna tell y'all the truth. Most businesses are usually pretty black and white, okay, with what they do. It is, to be quite honest with you, it is. And if you can typically infer from the name or the title of what they say they do, you can usually infer what they do. But when there's a whole lot of confusion attached to what you do and you can't accurately explain to me your day-to-day operations, yeah. I mean, people are going to wonder and it's going to be confusing and people are going to have questions. Especially when you tie that to the fact that you're telling people that you spend $50,000 per month on shopping or excursions or whatever it is you spend it on, and you spend $80,000 on a party for Meredith, whom you really didn't know that well. Come on now. I'm just saying, explain it to us better. Let me say it like that. Because the way you explaining it to us now, it don't make a lick of sense. And we're gonna keep it 100% for real. And I like you, Jen. I do. But it don't make no sense the way you explaining it to us. Okay? It's asked if Whitney is a flip-flopper because of how she has been against Jen and then for Jen. And the way Whitney describes her evolution with Jen, I guess it made sense. So I'm not going to harp on that too much. But Jen is still upset that Whitney thought that she may have had a sugar daddy. And then, of course, bad weather, they team up against Jen to, because Whitney and Heather, bad weather, they're going to have each other's back because they're cousins, they family. They like candy in the game. Clink, clink, we got you, okay? Don't mess with either one of us because we're going to double team you, all right? Andy says, Lisa, it seems like you're trying to distance yourself from Jen. Lisa says, no. I was trying to find out if there was anything on the docket when she was calling the lawyers. So then they get into, Lisa and Jen get into this back and forth about what the docket is. And Jen calls Lisa a bitch. Lisa says, don't call me that. Jen says, I can roll my neck too. I got your number, hussy. Okay. She didn't say that last part. I just made it up because it felt right. All right. Anyway, Andy asked Lisa, are you insinuating that Jen was having an affair with that Uber story? Now, that question really should have been directed to Heather first, to be quite honest with you, because Heather was the one that brought up that Uber story with Jen leaving her house, Heather getting her an Uber, and then Heather let us know that the Uber stopped halfway between where she was supposed to be getting out and to her house. But at the end of the day, my thought was this. Jen says she got out of the car because she really wanted a ride home from one of her assistants that Heather wasn't letting in her house because the assistant had allegedly stole from her before. So Jen, why are you keeping these people around that have allegedly stole from your friends? All of this stuff sounds crazy to me. And if Heather had already gotten you an Uber, let me tell y'all something. If I leave your house because you paid for me an Uber, guess who riding the Uber all the way home with my happy self? Me, okay? I'm not getting up out of the Uber to get into a friend's car so that my friend can take me home when the Uber can just take me home because it was probably an Uber Black too, okay? Or Uber XL. Let me lay back up here and not do nothing. And if I've been drinking too, I don't feel like talking to nobody. The only time I'm getting out is if I'm going someplace else. And that's to be for real, okay? For real. Now, that's that on that. Andy's like, well, the Uber driver did a podcast and he said that is not what happened. Jen says that was a lie. That was a lie. Whatever they said on the podcast, that was a lie. I was like, everybody not lying. Now I don't know if he was truthful or not because I don't know him from Adam. And to be quite honest with you, I didn't even listen to the whole thing. But what I do know is, girl, it sounds cockamamie. What I know is that you got out the Uber that Heather got for you. Where you went was concerning to Lisa. Let's add it all up. Something ain't right, okay? Something is not right. Anyway. Andy says, well, Meredith, what did Jen do to you and your family? Meredith says, people in this room told me you were trying to destroy my family. If it's one person I believe on this show, 9 times out of 10, it's Meredith. Because I don't believe Meredith gets the notes. And I told y'all about this. Whoever don't get the notes that day is usually going to be the target, the topic of conversation, the person that everybody got to smoke with, right? And I believe that Meredith has been reacting to everything that these ladies have been throwing at her, right? And when Meredith said, people in this room told me you were trying to destroy my family, Heather immediately jumps in and says, just say who it is because I feel like you're talking about me and it's pissing me off. And all I kept thinking was, guilty much? Because for me, if it wasn't me that said anything to it, I'm just going to be sitting there like, well, I know she's not talking about me because if it don't apply, let it fly over your head. You know what I'm saying? So why are you so gassed up and up in arms because Meredith is saying people in this room, if you know you didn't say that, then you in the clear, right? But it feels like the lady doth protest too much for you to be that upset that she could be insinuating you. If you know you ain't say it, then you ain't say it. The truth needs no defense. Okay? Meredith completely ignored her, which I was so glad she did. Okay? Jen says, I never looked to destroy you or anybody else. Andy says to Meredith, why did you have a PI? Why did you hire a PI? Meredith says, I hired a cybersecurity specialist, and Heather also too was getting messages. Okay, just so y'all know, Heather was getting these messages too, while everybody's acting like it was just me. And Heather, I think, if I can remember correctly, was supposed to go in on getting the cybersecurity specialist to analyze this. I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Okay. Anyway, excuse me. Meredith says the PI thought it may have come from Jen, but it was inconclusive. Jen then brings up another good point. Jen says, well, I've gotten messages and my kids have gotten messages threatening to skin us alive or something like that, and asked if she should accuse them of sending the messages as well. If I was Meredith, I would have said, well, if you were that concerned about it, then you should have hired a cybersecurity specialist to look into who was sending you threatening messages, because that's what I did. Okay. I mean, if you getting threatening messages, go to an expert, find out who doing it, do something about it, right? Meredith says it was when she read that there were the use of encrypted messages as part of the indictment that made her think it was something more. They are asked point blank by Andy, do any of them think Jen is guilty of fraud and money laundering? Heather says, well, I don't care if she is. I'm still her friend and I love her to death. And I was like, Heather, I know you are going to go through leaps and bounds to prove your friendship to this woman. I understand. There is something about Jen that just does it for you. And that's okay. And I understand. Sometimes you feel like you need to ride for your friends. But girl, open your eyes just a little bit, okay? Do I want her to be guilty? No. If she is, then all right then. I mean, it is what it is. Jen then makes a very convincing speech about why she is going to fight this. She is going to fight this because when Andy points out the percentage rate for which they usually win cases like this, Jen says it's because people usually take the plea deals so they can get like lesser sentences. And she says that she is going to fight this for everybody out there in the world that cannot fight for themselves. Okay. She is going to fight until the end because she is maintaining her innocence. Okay. Andy says, well, why do you think that they targeted you? Jen says, because Meredith called the feds. I'm joking. Literally, that's what she said. She said, I'm joking. And I was like, girl, listen, this to me was like, it was funny, but I was like, I wouldn't be joking about this if I was you right about now, because these are some serious charges and that's a lot of time. And Andy says the charges are for 30 years and for 20 years. And Jen is like, well, I don't really know what the charges are. You don't know what the charges are? What? Okay. She ends up thanking everybody that's been there for her this entire time. And everybody goes around the table and talk about what they learned about themselves and about the season and whatnot and woo-de-woo. And I was just like, I'm so glad this season is over. Please make next season 14 episodes or less. Just because I feel like when you have a season that's this long and it just goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on, it's tiresome. It was good, but it was tiresome. I am tired, okay? I was tired. And so we have finished out the season of The Real Housewives of the Salt Lake City, and I could not be happier, okay? I could not be happier. So listen, I want to say thank you guys for going on this ride with me and with Adam. It has been wild, okay? I feel like we have been doing this since 2020, all right? So that's it for today, y'all. we're gonna have to wait and see what happens next. Salt Lake City is currently filming season 3. There are some new cast members out and about, and I don't know. We just have to wait and see what happens. Thank you guys for tuning in. Listen, if she is actually innocent, I think that's great. Great. I want her to be innocent. I don't want her to go to jail. I don't want her family to have to suffer through all of this. But I mean, you should still know what the charges are. Know what you're fighting against. Okay. That's all I gotta say, y'all. Love y'all, and I'm gonna catch y'all in the next video.